just structuralize them appropriately, and then we'll be able to make sure that you get what you need as far as questions are concerned. Now, quite a lot of you watching us from Twitter, as well as those of you watching us from Twitch. If you guys got questions, comments related to the topic of the show, then we can go ahead and take them. You can put other unrelated questions into the comment section, like message us into the community, or send us a direct message either on the Twitter platform or on the YouTube or Twitch platform. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Otherwise, your questions can be released to us on Sundays, and we go through all the questions and comments that you guys have, as long as those questions and comments are structured appropriately. Beyond that, we don't have any new information for you. We don't have very many updates, so we're going to be speeding right along today. Since it is the holidays, we're going to be working our way into taking some time off, because we go live every night of the week in spite of the holidays. So, want to take a nap, but I can't do it until after we finish with tonight's show. So let's go ahead and get it started, because once you put yourself in that position where you're finally done, after years of saving every spare dollar that you have, obsessively building your credit, you're scrolling through listings at midnight, and I've done that before as well, where you have the keys to your dream home in your hand. You finally got to that level. You can hopefully smell the fresh paint. The moving trucks is backing into the driveway, and your future is unfolding right before your eyes, right? But what if I told you that one single piece of paper from the mountain of closing documents could decide whether you truly own the house or not? What if a long lost heir, a secret lien from a contractor decades ago, or a forged signature from the 1970s can suddenly pop up and change your ownership, pulling you into a legal and financial nightmare? That piece of paper is your deed, and accepting the wrong one, like a quit claim deed in a standard sale instead of a general warranty deed, can be the most devastating mistake a home buyer can make. It's the difference between total security and losing everything. So in tonight's show, we're going to pull back the curtain, and we're going to address yet another one of these critical documents that you guys need to pay attention to, and you're going to make absolutely certain that the nightmare scenario will never happen to you. So, while I am not a real estate attorney, I want to make sure that you guys understand that I'm providing you with the information that you need to look into. And while we have gone through a large quantity of home buying situations, navigated a lot of mazes related to closing, making sure that our investments are secured from day one, my goal today is going to be pretty simple: to turn you from an anxious home buyer into an informed and empowered owner. So we're going to demystify one of the most important yet least understood documents in your entire home owning journey. It's the deed. So what exactly is a deed? At its core, a deed is the official legal document that transfers ownership of property from one person to another. It's the property that says what used to be theirs is now yours. But it's so much more than a receipt. Think of it this way: the purchase agreement is the game plan for the sale. It sets the price, the timeline, and the rules. But the deed is the final powerful move. So it's the legal key that actually turns ownership or title over from seller to you, the buyer. Before we jump in, we need to get two key terms straight because you'll hear them constantly. The grantor is the person selling or giving the property away. The grantee is the person receiving or buying the property. The grantor gives, the grantee gets. As long as you understand that, you're off to the good start. Now, you might think a deed is a deed, but that's where the danger lies. There are several different types. Each one offers a wildly different level of protection to you as the buyer. They contain different promises or warranties from the seller. Understanding these differences isn't just for lawyers, it is the absolute foundation of security that your property rights needs for you to understand. So we're going to start with the best of the best, the one you should always want, and work our way down the riskiest list so that you can spot a red flag from a mile away. So, what's the big deal with the document? First, let's clear something up. People often use deeds and titles interchangeably, but they are the same thing. A deed or a title. These words are interchangeably utilized, but they are not the same thing. Okay? A title is just a legal concept. It's your bundle of ownership rights, your right to possess, use, enjoy, and sell the property. It's the abstract idea of ownership. A deed, on the other hand, is the physical, tangible legal document that actually transfers the title from the grantor to the grantee. A deed is the proof of the transfer. Okay, so you can't hold the title in your hand, but you can hold a deed. So the best analogy is your car. Your car title is a physical certificate that proves you're the legal owner. When you sell your car, you sign that title over. A deed for a house serves the exact same function, but it carries a lot more history and a lot more weight. Why does it have to be a formal written document? Because real estate is our most valuable asset, and ownership has to be crystal clear and public. After a deed is signed at closing, it's taken to the county recorder office and officially recorded, becoming part of the public record. Now, people bypass this from time to time by using trust. They'll have a property that's in somebody's name, then they'll quit claim deed and transfer it to the trust, recording the documents off the books, where instead of bringing that deed transfer to the recorder's office to make it public record, they keep it off the records. But if somebody comes to claim ownership of the property, that quit claim deed shows that the ownership was transferred from the primary owner to the trust of the primary owner, which typically that's probably the only time that a quit claim deed is safe to use, is when you are quit claim deeding from yourself to yourself in a private trust or personal business or whatever you've got going on, where you're on both sides of the transaction. A quit claim deed is reasonable. If it's you and a friend, or you and a family member, or anybody to that effect, quit claim deed is not a good way to go. You want to have a more legitimate front, but if you're trying to have it done off the books with a trust, quit claim deeds is typically how people get it done, because it shows the public record shows the last person of record to own the property. It doesn't show who owns the property now. When you go to attempt to collect the property, that's when the other person who claims to have legal right or ownership or possession of the property comes up with their other paperwork that shows that they have legal right to the property. But typically, if you picked it up on a quit claim, you typically want to seize the actual deed before selling the property. But if you're trying to keep everything under wraps and keep it in the close quarters, you may leave whoever was the previous person of record on the record and just keep the property to yourself, as long as the other person that is on the record is not passing away and then having the estate up for grabs for someone else. Because as soon as somebody tries to claim it as an heir to an estate, you're going to have to update the deed of record and say, nope, this property was transitioned into another ownership X number of months or years ago, and then update the record. So this step is a huge deal because it creates a searchable history of the property's ownership over time, which we call the chain of title. And you typically break that chain of title when you're doing quit claim deeds, because nobody has a record of who owns it now. But think of this chain of title like a family tree for your house. Each link in the chain is a past owner. But we all know that we have family members off the books that nobody knows anything about. But a title company or attorney researches this chain, digging through decades of deeds, mortgages, wills, court records, and more to make sure every link is strong and unbroken. And they're hunting for clouds on the title. Things like an old mortgage that was paid off but never officially released, a claim from a divorced spouse who never signed away their rights, or a property lien dispute with a neighbor. The type of deed that you get determines who is on the hook for fixing these problems if they're discovered after you've bought the house. Does the seller have to step in and pay to defend your ownership, or are you left on your own to hire lawyers and pay off old claims you never knew existed? That is the $1,000 or even $100,000 question your deed will answer. This is why it is not just a piece of paper. It's a shield, and the type of deed you have determines how strong that shield is. If you're buying a home in a normal transaction, there's one type of deed that you should absolutely demand, and it's the hero of today's story, the gold standard of protection, the best that you can get, and it is called the general warranty deed. When sellers give you a general warranty deed, they aren't just handing you the property, they're handing you the whole set of legally binding promises that offers you the highest level of protection possible. And these promises are called conveyance of title. And while they can vary slightly by state, they generally include 6 key guarantees. And let's go ahead and break these down so that you guys know what they are. The first conveyance of cession It's a funny sounding old word, but it means something simple. The seller promises they actually own the property that they're trying to sell to you. Seems obvious, but you'd be surprised. This makes it a breach of warranty to try and sell property that you don't own, which ironically, fix and flippers and wholesalers do a lot when they buy houses on assignment and sell it to somebody else. When they put up a house on assignment, they have to be in the process of buying the house and then sell it to somebody else. It's crazy. Second is conveyance of right to convey. All right. This goes hand in hand with cessions. The seller promises that they not only own the property, but also have the full legal authority to sell it. For example, a trustee might technically own a property, but have restrictions on their ability to sell it. They can't sell it. The trustee of a property, which typically happens when you put the property in a land trust, they control the property. They maintenance the property. They whatever they got to do with the property, rent it out or whatever they can do with the property, but they're not allowed to sell the property. So while the trustee owns the property, the trustee can't do nothing with it. That's not in the trustee contract. So this conveyance ensures the person signing the deed has the right to do so. Third, and this one is a biggie, is the conveyance against encumbrance. An encumbrance is any claim against the property that lowers its value or restricts your use, like mortgages, tax liens, or easements, giving the neighbor the right to use your driveway. With these premises or with these promises, the seller swears the property is free and clear of all of these issues except for anything specifically listed in the deed that you've already agreed to, such as if the property is subjugated from the land where you're owning the house, but you're not owning the land that the house is on and you have to pay an HOA fee. Those are restricted deeds, but you're agreeing to that when you buy the house. If a secret lien from a previous owner's unpaid bills pop up after closing, this conveyance means the seller has to pay it, not you. So let's say somebody does somebody dirty. That person puts a lien on the house to get their money back. They never pay that bill. The lien's sitting there. They put the house up for sale, forgetting about that issue that occurred from before. When the house goes up for sale, it triggers the debt collection for the property. In order for them to sell the house to you, they have to pay that lien, which means that it's going to probably delay your transaction. But whatever it is that the seller has to do to free up the deed in order for you to get it, they have to free the deed up because they cannot provide you with the deed until they release that lien. Fourth is the conveyance of quiet enjoyment. No, this has nothing to do with noisy neighbors. This is a legal promise that your ownership won't be disturbed by someone else showing up later with a better claim to the title. So if someone has a long lost heir of an owner from 50 years ago that appears with a valid claim, the seller who gave you this deed is legally required to defend you. Yeah. And this leads to the fifth and most powerful promise, the conveyance of warranty. This is the ultimate shield. The seller promises to defend your title against any and all claims from anyone from any point in the property's history. It doesn't matter if the problem started 80 years before the seller even owned the place. The seller is effectively saying, I guarantee that your title is good against the whole world. And if anyone ever challenges it, I will step in with my own money and lawyers and fix it for you. Now, this is why it is called a general warranty deed. The warranty is general and covers the entire history of the property. Finally, there is a conveyance of further assurance. And this is a simple promise that if any document is needed down the road to fix a minor flaw in the title, doesn't matter what that is, the seller will sign it. For example, if a clerical error is found in the past deed and the seller has to help execute a correction deed to fix it, they're going to sign it. When you put all these promises together, you can see why the general warranty deed is so powerful. It puts all the risk of past title problems squarely on the seller's shoulders. This is why in nearly every standard home sale, the buyer should demand and the lender will insist on it, a general warranty deed. It's the sign of a clean, confident, and secure deal. So if you're looking and you haven't seen that yet, you need to go talk to some folks about that and go try to get your hands on one, because if you don't have that, you're probably going to get some issues. Now, not every deal comes with an ironclad promise of a general warranty deed. Sometimes you'll run into a special warranty deed, also called a limited warranty deed. This deed is a major step down in protection, and it's critical to know exactly what you're giving up. With a special warranty deed, the seller is still making promises, but they are much more limited. The key difference is this: the seller only guarantees the title against problems that came up while they owned the property. They make zero promises about anything that might have happened before they took the title. It's like the seller saying, look, I've owned this place for 5 years. I guarantee that I didn't take out any secret mortgages or let any liens attach to it, but I have no idea what the owners before me did, and I can't speak for them, and I'm not taking responsibility for their mistakes. So if a title problem shows up from an owner who was 3 links back in the chain, the seller who gave you a special warranty deed can just say, sorry, not my problem. It didn't happen on my watch. Crazy, right? So when would you see this occur? It's actually pretty common in specific situations, just rarely in a typical sale between 2 homeowners. You'll almost always see it when the seller is a large entity that wants to avoid historical liabilities. So this includes like banks and lenders, because when a bank sells a foreclosure property, an REO property, it will almost always use a special warranty deed. The bank only held the title briefly and has no real knowledge of its history. Builders and developers, when they buy a brand new home, the builder will often use a special warranty deed. They can confidently guarantee that the title from when they bought the raw land, but they don't want to be on the hook for something obscure or some weird claim on the farmland from 100 years ago. Fiduciaries. This includes executors selling property from an estate or trustee selling property from a trust. These individuals are just acting on behalf of someone else and won't personally guarantee the property's entire history. Commercial transactions. These deeds are very common in big commercial deeds or deals where the buyers rely more on their own deep dive investigations and title insurances than on seller promises. So if you're buying and you're offered a special warranty deed, you should run for the hills. But not necessarily. And if you don't, it means your own due diligence becomes 10 times more important because you are now exposed to all potential claims from the beginning of time until your seller bought the property. Now, the only way to protect yourself is with a meticulous title search and, most importantly, a comprehensive owner's title insurance policy. In this situation, the title insurance is your absolute best friend because we've met the hero and its cautious sidekick. Now it's time to meet the potential villains of our story. Remember, we were talking about those quitclaim deeds. A quitclaim deed offers the absolute lowest level of protection to a buyer. In fact, it offers zero protection. Let that sink in for a second. Zero protection. All right. When a seller transfers a property with a quitclaim deed, they're making no promises or warranties of any kind. They aren't promising they own it. They aren't promising the title is clear. All a quitclaim deed does is transfer whatever interest the seller currently has in its property, if any, to the buyer. That interest could be full ownership, it could be a 50% share, or it could be absolutely nothing. The best way to think about a quitclaim deed is buying used items as is at a flea market, or buying a used car as is without checking a Carfax. You ask the seller, does it work? Are you sure it's yours? And the seller just shrugs and says, look, no promises. You give me the money, I give you whatever rights I have to this thing. Could be perfect, could be worthless. Once you buy it, sure problem. Now, that's a quitclaim deed. The seller is quitting their claim. So I want to, and that's crazy. They're quitting their claim to the property. So I want you to understand it is a I quit claim deed, not a quick, like fast claim deed. And people pronounce this wrong, thinking, oh, it's a fast claim to a deed. No, it is quitting. It is retiring on the deed, just instantly surrendering the deed. That's a quick claim. It's a quit claim, right? You are taking on 100% of the risk as a buyer. But again, quit claim deeds work fantastic when you are the seller and the receiver. So if you own a business and you're going to transition ownership from yourself to the business, a quit claim deed works because you're going to be on both sides of the deal. If you're doing it from a trust, a quit claim deed works because you're on both sides of the deal. If you're trying to give it to one of your kids, a quit claim works because it's your kid. If you're trying to pass it on to your kid quick, fast, and in a hurry, they grew up in this house, stuff to that effect, it does work in certain scenarios. If you're passing it on as a gift to a friend, you know, um, it works. But when you start talking about trying to sell it to a complete stranger on a quitclaim deed, we start having some issues with that. And you might see some folks doing fix and flips, real estate, buying holds, well, not buying holds, but um, buy on assignment and then sell kind of scenarios that might try this, and that's just like some red flag action. But let's uh, go back to that nightmare scenario. You find a house sold by an individual. To simplify things, they suggest using a simple quitclaim deed instead of getting lawyers involved, right? You agree and hand over all your life savings. 6 months later, you get a letter. It turns out the seller only owned 50% of the house because they can sell a whatever they own on the house in a quitclaim deed. So their estranged sibling owned the other 50%. Now that sibling wants you to either buy them out or force a sale of the house, which means that all your money is gone in this house and you moved in, you were living in it. Now somebody else either wants you to buy them out or sell the house and you got to move out, where you're only going to get half of the value of the house after it's sold. And the other person might have gotten the full value of the house when you bought it from them. That's a huge issue. You lose out on more than 50% of the deal, and you've got to relocate. Because you accepted a quitclaim deed, you have no legal recourse against that seller. They didn't break any promises because they never made it. You're now stuck in a legal battle that could cost you a fortune. If quitclaims are so risky, why do you think they exist? Because they are the perfect tool for very specific low risk jobs where trust is high and no money is changing hands in any traditional sale. So again, think of them as tools for housekeeping, not commerce. Goods uses uh, that you can include this in is, like I said before, transferring between family. A parent gifting a house to their child. In a divorce settlement, one spouse signing over their portion of the house in the home over to the other spouse, uh, clearing a cloud on the title, where they are great for fixing minor defects. And we're going to get into this real quick because uh, when you're dealing with the quitclaim deeds, you can deal with misspelled names on the prior deed, and you can get all of this stuff wrapped up. Then everything is ready to go to transfer somewhere else. Now, transferring property into a trust, you'd use a quitclaim deed to move your home from your name into your living trust for estate planning. But here is the ultimate red flag. If you are buying a property from a stranger for a significant amount of money and they want to use a quitclaim deed, you stop everything, because it is strongly suggested that the seller either knows there's a problem with the title or is unwilling to stand behind what they're selling. In a normal sale, a quitclaim deed isn't a shortcut, it is a giant blinking warning sign. So while those are big threes, there are a few others. And these are going to be specialized deeds that you might run into eventually, like a grant deed. In some states, like California, the grant deed is standard. It's a hybrid falling somewhere between a special and a general warranty deed. It implies two key promises. One, that the seller hasn't already sold the property to someone else. And two, that the seller hasn't put any encumbrances on the property themselves. And it's very similar to a special warranty deed. Fiduciary deeds, when properties are sold by someone in a position of trust, like an executor of the estate or a trustee, they use a fiduciary deed. They warrant that they have the legal authority to sell the property, but they won't personally guarantee the title's history. Now, this makes it function a lot like a special warranty deed. Transfers on death deeds. This is going to happen when somebody dies. Available in about half the states. This is a fantastic estate planning tool. While you're alive, you record a TODD. That names who you want to get the property when you die. It has no effect while you're living, and you can still sell or mortgage the house, but if you die, ownership automatically transfers to your beneficiary, completely bypassing the long and expensive probate court process. There's also this thing called a survivor's heir, or yeah, like I think it's called a survivor's heir or a survivor's owner type deed. And what happens is that if you're a co-owner on the deed and survivorship is established on the deed, if one person dies on the deed, all of their shares of the property automatically transfers over to the surviving owner of the deed, which prevents other relatives related to the deceased from claiming portions of the house. If you're in a large family where you have siblings and you are co-owner with one of your parents, it's always good to survivorship the scenario so that if they pass, your siblings aren't trying to take half the house from you. If you're on this property with a buddy of yours and they pass, it's good to have a survivorship so that their family members doesn't come and take portions of the house from you. Um, it's a good option to have if you're co-owner. If you're a wife or a husband on a deed and you have the survivorship thing going on, it's best that you can claim 100% of the ownership through the survivorship than for stepchildren and other such things to come out of nowhere and start taking portions of the house. Because the fact is that a house, the deed of the house and possession of the house is a lot like a stock option. More than one person can own a share of the house, and whoever has legal right to the house can typically, in some situations, utilize the house. So you might go from living in a house by yourself or living in a house with your husband or your wife, and then end up living in the house with their kids because that person inherited their shares of the house. And there's not much else you can do with it besides, like we said earlier, either buy them out or force a sale where they get their monetary value out of the property, since y'all are not going to cohabitate the property together. Now, deed of trust or a mortgage deed, this is a major point of confusion, because a deed of trust is not a deed that gives you ownership. It's a security instrument for your lender. In mortgages of states, your loan is secured by a mortgage. In deed of trust states, you technically transfer a form of title to a neutral third party, which is a trustee, who holds it for the lender until you pay off the loan. Just remember, a deed of trust is about your loan, not your ownership deed from the seller. Foreclosures and tax deeds. When a property is sold at an auction, the winner gets a special deed, like a sheriff's deed. The deed is extremely risky because they usually convey the property as is with no warranties, and the buyer of the title can pick up something that is a complete mess. They can buy properties this way, often requiring a lot of extra legal work to get the title clean, including code violations, tax liens, mechanic liens, um, and other such situations that have existed towards the property, you would have to put extra money into getting these things cleaned up before you can utilize the property the way you want to use the property. A correction deed. Whew. All these different types of deeds. We just been sitting here talking about the different types of deeds. And this is how thousands of dollars can be taken out of your pocket just by grabbing the wrong deed. This is crazy. But a correction deed, just what it sounds like. This deed's only job is to fix a mistake in the previously recorded deed, which you could fix that with a quick claim deed also. But it's things like typos in your name or a legal description. It's things like if you changed your legal name and you want to update that on the ownership of the property so that there's no legal issues. It doesn't transfer ownership. It just cleans up the public record. Whew. All right. So let's see how all of this plays out in a few real world scenarios. The standard purchase and sale is what most home buyers will experience. You find a home, sign a purchase agreement, and get a mortgage. Your lender will require a title search. At closing, the seller signs a general warranty deed transferring full protection ownership to you. You'll sign a mortgage or deed of trust for your lender, and both documents get recorded, and you walk away with the keys and an owner's title insurance policy. This is the clean, secure, industry standard process. The installment sale contract deed, this is a much riskier path because here the seller acts as the bank. The buyer makes monthly payments, but, and here's the dangerous part, the seller keeps the legal title. The deed isn't delivered until the very last payment, which could be years later. This is risky for the buyer, and if you miss a payment, the seller might be able to evict you and keep all the money you've paid without a formal foreclosure. Now, this is something that happens with low-income individuals who cannot afford to buy the house through a bank because they have bad credit, because they have a foreclosure on their recent histories, because they don't meet the standards of a traditional mortgage scenario. This is what I was talking to Crockett Up last week about. If you work towards high risk borrowers, you put them in an installment sale contract where they basically rent to own the property. They live on the property. They're paying an inflated price for the property as rent. And however you work out the contract, some of the money can go towards them staying on the property, and some of the money can go towards the value of the property. They agree to the contract. They're going to be making payments on the property for however many number of years. And then after so many number of years, they get the title to the property. Splitting it up like that, because you are essentially the bank and the seller, you will make more money off of this property than what you would have made off of generally just selling it off to somebody else. If you're trying to set up the kind of establishment where the business might run 50 years, you're doing 30, 40-year contracts with people, 50-year contracts with people, because outside of legal restrictions, you can make any kind of agreement that you want to make with somebody else as long as they're willing to sign off on the agreement and start making the payments. You have to check local laws to see what restrictions you have on these type of contracts, but ideally, excluding any legal restrictions, if you wanted to do like you see in other countries, they have like 100-year leases and stuff to that effect. If you wanted to do a 50 or 75 or 100-year lease to buy option, and they start making payments on the property where the amount that they're going to pay you for the property is fixed. Whatever that amount is, you're probably going to put a bunch of interest on it, or it's a fixed amount, and then you're going to agree that a percentage of the money that they give you for the rent is going to go towards the property. Say, for example, you sell the house for, let's say, $300,000, right? Not that much. I say that, but it's a lot. But let's just say it's like 300,000, and out of that $300,000, they're supposed to pay, say, $1,000, $2,000 a month. Let's say like $2,000 a month, and then let's say that 1,500 of that is going towards the property out of the $2,000 a month. Now, the property, there isn't extra money that's going to happen on this scenario outside of any late fees that they would charge for you not paying it on time. They would just pay for the property until the contract expires. You have the option when the contract expires or before the contract expires to renew or extend the contract, which allows to reevaluate how much money is left versus whether or not they're going to walk away from the deal or if they're going to keep paying for the deal. But if they've already financially invested, they're typically going to agree to terms, but you're not going to actually raise rates. You should keep rates the way they are, unless you have it written in the initial contract that after a certain number of years, if they haven't bought the property outright, that it gets reassessed and prices go up, whatever the case may be. Typically, a good deal that you would do for a low-income individual, if you're going to try to make a name for yourself using these installment sale contracts, would be to keep everything the same, have the longest period of payment time where you're going to get a decent quantity of money out of the monthly installments, but a percentage of the money, probably 25 or 30% of it, is not going towards the house. That gives you a pretty decent interest rate in comparison to what a mortgage lender would provide to them, which allows you to turn a decent profit on a house. As long as you're turning a profit, you should be honorable about the ability to provide them with a installment contract that upon the final payment, whether they make the final payment or their children makes the final payment, the deed gets transferred to them. And you can actually put a clause in the agreement where the contract can be willed to next of kin, which gives the buyer more confidence that they're going to rent to own this property until they own this property, and they can have their kids continue renting to own this property until the property is bought in full. And that's a good way to really build a real estate business, is to have those type of rent to own scenarios with extended timelines where you're holding a property as collateral. And if you're charging late fees and interest on late fees, and you're willing to deal with the delays in payments the entire time that the tenant is in the property, and since they're in the property as an ideal owner, you're less responsible with maintenance because you can have the contract set up where they're responsible for the upkeep of the property as if they're a homeowner, but they've got to pay you for the property. Fantastic work. And once they pay it off, they keep the property. And if you're doing this where 30% of the money they're paying you is not going towards the ownership of the property, that's equivalent to charging 30% interest, which is fantastic for you, because if the house was worth 300 grand and you're going to get 30% interest, what is that? $390,000, right? Or more if you're looking at over the course of 40 or 50 years. But you're turning a reasonable profit on the property without having to deal with the headache. Another deal is a lease option or lease purchase option. And in this setup, it's a little bit the same, but it's kind of different, because a tenant signs a lease that includes either the option to buy the property later or the obligation to buy it now, right? The deed stays with the seller during the leasing period. And some people do like a 2-year lease and then you buy, so that they get a little bit of money out of you for the property. Where ironically, when they do lease to buys, they lease the property for the mortgage rate, and then you opt to buy for the mortgage rate. And if the tenant decides to buy it after they've lived in it for a while, a standard closing takes place and the seller conveys the property with a normal deed, hopefully a general warranty deed. The initial agreement is just a contract. The deed only changes hands at the final purchase, not during the leasing part. A no sell transfer is like gifting and estate planning. Which this is where that quit claim deed comes in, and it really shines here. If your parents want to give you their cabin, they'd likely use a quit claim deed because there's no sale involved, and there's high trust between the two parties, so there's no warranties that are needed, right? You've been using this cabin since you were kids. You decide that you're going to give this cabin to one of your kids. You do a quit claim deed. You give them the property. The kids know where the property came from. They've been dealing with this since they were young. Now they're adults. So, you know what I'm saying? Likewise, when you move your home into a living trust for estate planning, that's another one. You'll use that quit claim to transfer from yourself to as the individual to yourself as a trustee, or from yourself as the individual to a third party trustee under the contract of the trustee. But you got to be careful here, because even these simple transfers can have major tax or Medicaid consequences. So talking to an expert is always a smart move, but just transfer ownership from one entity to the next without recording it with the county clerk's office, the ownership was shifted. And only when the public record is updated will any major taxes or Medicaid consequences be triggered. Likewise, you can do quit claim deeds when the house is under mortgage, but it doesn't trigger upon sale clause of the contract, because the quit claim deed transferred ownership from one to the next, but it wasn't an actual sale. You don't provide that to record, but the house is now owned by another entity, but there's still a lien on the deed. That lien is in the house's history. Even though the house is technically under the trustee, the lien for the mortgage is still in the house's history. And if the trustee wanted to sell the house, they would have to clean up the mortgage from the previous owner before the next person can gain it, in order for the general contract deed to come out. So it should be obvious by now that the deed that you get has a massive impact on the risk that you're trying to accomplish. So how do you build a defensive wall around your investments? You need a playbook with 3 critical tools. Your number one tool: owner title insurance. This is, without a doubt, the single most important way to protect your ownership. A title search looks for existing problems, but title insurance protects you from problems that searches might have missed. It's unique because it protects you from the things that happened in the past. If a forged signature on a deed from the 1950s occurs, or an unknown heir suddenly appears where the property typically had no owner identified for a long period of time, and then new owner took up possession of the property and then started using it, then the property started being sold after that. If there is a lapse in the history, and then somebody's heir has the original deed from before all these transactions occurs, that historical document takes precedent over the current ownership. Your title insurance policy is there to save you from those types of situations. They will pay the legal fees to defend your title, and if it can't be defended, where ironically the property must go to the person with the original document from the 1950s, that insurance will reimburse you for your financial losses up to the full value of the house. So your lender will make you buy a lender's policy, but that only protects them. You must get your own owner's title insurance policy. It's a one-time fee at closing that protects you for as long as you own your home or your heirs own the property if they inherit the house from you. Number two, this tool is a professional title search, because before issuing a policy, the title company does a deep dive into public records. This is your first line of defense. They are proactively trying to find and fix issues before you close. A clean title report is a green light. A report full of problems is a major red flag telling you to slow down or potentially walk away. Your third tool, qualified professional advice. And finally, the last piece of defense is expert guidance, because real estate laws is complicated and it varies a lot from state to state. So if you run into anything unusual, a seller pushing a quick claim deed or a confusing title report, you need to speak with a qualified real estate attorney that is in your local area, and their job is to look out for your best interests. Spending a few $100s on their advice up front can save you hundreds of thousands down the road. Now, we've covered a lot, so let's boil it down to the essentials. The deed you get at closing isn't just a formality. It is a legal bedrock of your home ownership. First, a general warranty deed is your best friend. It gives you the maximum protection by making the seller responsible for any title problems ever. Always push for this in a standard home purchase. Second, the special warranty deed offers limited protection, where the seller only guarantees the title during their period of ownership. This makes you responsible for whatever they aren't responsible for, because your owner's title insurance is absolutely non-negotiable in this particular situation, because only the period of time that the previous seller had possession of the property are they responsible for. You're responsible for everything around that. And the third is the quit claim deed that offers zero protection. It's a high-risk document, perfect for simple non-sale transfers between people who trust each other, but it's a giant red flag in a purchase from one stranger to the next stranger. The story of your dream home should be a happy one, hopefully, and it should be free from fear of a hidden claim destroying all your hard work. By understanding these documents, insisting on the right protections, and getting expert advice, you aren't just buying a house, you're securing your future and your peace of mind. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure that you guys feel empowered and do me a favor and hit that like button and hit the subscription button if you haven't done so already, for more real estate guides just like this one. And we're probably going to be giving you more information on other ways to work yourself into a deal and work your way out of one. Now, I have a question for you. What's the most confusing or intimidating part of home buying process for you? I want you guys to drop that information in the comments below, because we might just make our next show about answering whatever questions that you guys have. Finally, remember that tonight's video was for educational purposes only, and I was not giving you guys any legal advice. Real estate law varies greatly by state, so you should always consult with a qualified real estate attorney in your area before making any big decisions. But if you ever want to start doing some digging, by all means, you can come here and ask us all the questions that you want to ask in order for us to point you in the right direction for you to find the information you need before you get to the lawyer, because since they're going to be charging you by the hour, you need to make sure that you have all the right questions to ask to get all of the right verifying information that you need in the least quantity of time, so that if you're there for 2 hours, it's because that second hour is follow-up questions, not because I don't know what to ask you. I have this problem. Let me give you this 2-hour backstory and then you tell me what to do. No, you can go in there with a full brief and be able to say, look, these are the questions I have, and then here is a packet of my backstory. Take a look at it before I get here, and then answer these questions for me when I get here, so that my hour is my hour. $350 for an hour's worth of information. I better be getting a lot of damn information. But if you don't know what questions to ask, you will be at a loss and you will be wasting your time, because in that hour, they're going to do more trying to impress you with their ability to have a success in their history, that they're not actually going to answer your question. If you're literally like, look, I do not care what your history is, I just want you to answer these questions, you're going to get more questions answered. And that's what's important for you. Then if you want to take them on as a retainer, then you can get to know them and get their history and talk to them about stuff that's hopefully not being billed to you. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And here at This and That, that's what we try to do. We try to find alternative ways to help you guys find out how to get where you're trying to go, and then show you the right ways to get to the right people who have the answers to the questions that you don't have the answers to. Now, that's all I have for you guys for tonight. I want to make sure that you guys remember to come tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to have a different country that we're going to be investing in, and we have a lot more stuff lined up for the rest of the week. Before we go, I'm going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Special shout out to those of you that's watching us on Twitch. I see you guys popping in. Just remember in the future that you guys can very well comment in the comment section, and I can see your comments on the show. So make note when you come back tomorrow that if you guys got anything that you want to add to the new countries that we're going to be talking to, that you do so that we can get you guys in there. Fellas, I give you guys the information that you need in order to make your higher value mint, the things that you need to know to fix your personal life, at least making the changes for the things that are inside of your control, and then navigating around the things that are not inside of your control, is some of the best ways to improve your life. And then ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can take this exact same information and make yourselves higher value women as well. You just have to prioritize the things in your life that you want to see improve. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And you guys have a happy New Year's Eve. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground! That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.